Hi, this is Anil and welcome to the video tutorial for the Learning Lad on C++ programming. So in this tutorial we're going to learn how to overload the special function call operator in C++. So when you overload the function call operator, which is denoted by the symbol, the opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis, which is normally used to pass the parameters to the functions. For example, here you guys can see in this main function we have this function call operator. So in our program, when we overload the function call operator, we're not creating a new way to call a function. Rather, we are creating an operator function that can be passed an arbitrary number of parameters. For example, let's say if we overload the operator void operator, and then if we have two parameters, let's say int x and int y, and then we are not creating a new way to call a function, but we are just creating an operator function which takes this number of parameters. So here we can create an object of that class where we overload this operator. For example, let's say we have the object obj and we have overloaded this function call operator in the class from where this object is created. At that time, if we use this function call operator and pass two values 55, at that time this operator function will be called. This 22 will be copied to this x and 55 will be copied to this y. So we are not creating a new way to call a function, rather we are creating an operator function. That's it. So here, just for the demonstration purpose, in this tutorial I have already created a class just to save the typing time. So we have a class called marks and we have one parameter or the one member called mark, and we have a constructor which is going to take one parameter and is going to initialize our mark member. And then we have a public method called what's your mark. It's just gonna print out the value stored in this member mark, and then we're gonna overload our function call operator. So here in this tutorial, for the demonstration purpose, our function call operator is gonna return an object of this class marks, and that's why the return type is gonna be marks, and then the keyword operator, and then we need to specify the symbols, that is opening and closing parenthesis, and then a pair of opening and closing parenthesis. Here in the second pair of parentheses we are defining the parameters. Let's say our function call operator is going to take one parameter, let's say int and mk for marks. And also, since this function call operator is a special operator available in C++, we can't use a friend function to define it. And also this operator function must be a non-static member function of this class. So here inside this operator function, what we're going to do is we're going to assign the value that we received to this parameter mk to this mark. So that's why it's going to be mark equal to mk, and then we're going to return the current object, and we can get that by referring to this star and this, because this pointer points to the current object, and when we use evaluate with that pointer we'll get the object. Alright, the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna create an object of this class marks in my main function. So it's gonna be marks, and let's say Anil's mark, and we can pass the value, let's say 85. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna call our what's your mark method. So it's gonna be Anil's mark dot what's your mark, and then we're gonna use the overloaded function call operator, and we're gonna pass some values. To do that, I'm gonna write the object name, which is Anil's mark, and then the function call operator, and let's say a value of 44. So here don't get confused between this constructor call here and this operator function call here. So when we create an object, at that time the constructor will be called. Here in the second time when we use that the operator function will be called. So just to demonstrate that, here inside my constructor I'm going to use a cout statement, and I just going to say constructor is called, and let's end this line, and I'm going to copy this cout statement and paste it here in this operator function, and just gonna say operator function is called. Okay, I'm gonna comment this line just to demonstrate you that the constructor will be called here. So I'm gonna build and run this, Alright, now you guys can see constructor is called, and here I got 85 marks. That's from the method what's your mark. Alright, the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna uncomment this line. So here in this line, the C++ is gonna call the operator function, this function, and it's gonna pass this 44 as a parameter to this operator function, and that 44 will be stored in this mark. And when we call our what's your mark method for the second time in our program, we'll get the marks as 44. So now just to demonstrate that, I'm gonna build and run this. Now you guys can see when we create an object, the constructor is called and it says, hey, I got 85 marks. That's from this call to the method what's your mark. And then we have called this overloaded function call operator, and we have passed 44 to it, and it just changed the value of our marks. And that's why when we call this what's your mark method in the second time, it says, hey, I got 44 marks. Alright guys, this is how you guys can overload the special function call operator in C++. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.